Let's just jump right into it with a huge question. Can you actually make yourself smarter? I mean, really increase your IQ? Well, forget everything you've probably heard because we're about to dive into the real science of how your brain can evolve, and I'm going to give you 4 tiny habits that can start building a sharper mind today. For the longest time, the common belief, the story we were all told, is that your IQ is set in stone. It's this number you're born with, and that's that. It's treated like your height or your eye color, just a fixed part of who you are. But what if that whole idea is just, well, wrong? What if it's a myth? Because the latest science from psychology and neuroscience is telling a completely different story, a much more exciting one that puts you in the driver's seat of your own intelligence. So let's just tear down that old myth right now. The old idea was that intelligence is a thing you have. The science, though, shows that intelligence is a thing you do. It's not about how many facts you can cram into your head. It's about how you train your brain to process information, to solve problems, to actually think. And that's really the core of it, isn't it? We have to stop thinking of our brain as just a storage unit, like some dusty old filing cabinet for facts. Real cognitive growth, the kind that actually boosts your IQ, comes from rewiring the very process of how you think. It's an active workout, not a passive library. And here's the best part. This isn't about some crazy, complicated brain training boot camp. We're going to break down 4 super simple, science-backed habits, tiny little things you can do that are designed to literally upgrade your thinking, one small step at a time. All right, let's get into our first habit. It sounds almost too simple, but trust me, it's a complete game changer. It's all about harnessing the incredible power of pause. This is where you master your cognitive control. Think about it. Something happens and you feel that immediate emotional impulse. You get angry or excited or frustrated. And what's our first instinct? To just react, right? Well, this habit is about forcing a gap, a conscious pause. Even if it's just for 1 second, that tiny little gap is like a secret weapon. It gives the logical, rational part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your brain, a chance to step in and say, hang on a second, let's think about this. And that simple act is the foundation of better judgment and smarter decision-making. Okay, habit number 2. Now, I'm not going to lie, this one might not sound like a ton of fun at first, but it is an incredible workout for your brain. It's this: embrace difficult reading. This is all about pushing your mind just beyond its comfort zone to build some serious mental muscle. So what's actually happening when you do this? You're strengthening something called your working memory. The best way to think about working memory is like your brain's temporary whiteboard. It's the mental space where you hold and juggle ideas to figure something out. The bigger and more efficient that whiteboard is, the more complex the problems you can solve. It's directly tied to fluid intelligence. So what do I mean by difficult reading? Well, we're talking about stuff like scientific papers, dense articles, maybe some philosophy, or even a complex technical manual. Anything that you can't just skim through. This kind of material forces your brain to slow down, to really focus, to hold a bunch of details in your head at once, and to connect the dots between complicated ideas. That effort, that struggle, that is literally what makes your working memory stronger. All right, from building your memory, we're moving on to deepening your understanding. Habit number 3 is so simple it's almost deceptive, but it is profoundly powerful. It's all about mastering a single one-word question. Why? Most of us learn a fact and we just stop there. We accept it and move on. This habit is about training your brain to never stop at the surface. You learn a fact and then you ask, okay, but why is that true? You get an answer. Great. Now ask again. And why is that true? You keep digging. What you're doing is you're forcing your brain to build mental models of how things work. You stop seeing a bunch of random facts and you start to see the hidden systems and the fundamental principles that connect everything. It's a hallmark of truly deep thinkers. And that desire to understand the why leads us perfectly into our 4th and final habit. This one is all about self-control and how it's the key to long-term success. I call this one winning the waiting game. It's about learning to delay gratification. So what are we really training here? We're training your brain's boss, that CEO we talked about earlier. The scientific term for this is executive function. It's the whole set of mental skills that lets you focus, plan ahead, and crucially, control your impulses. And get this, study after study shows a direct, powerful link between stronger executive function and higher IQ scores. So how do you practice this? Well, you do it every single day. On one side, you have all the easy instant rewards, right? Scrolling social media, eating junk food, binging another episode. On the other side, you have your real long-term goals. And here's the secret. Every single time you consciously choose to resist that easy dopamine hit and instead work on your project or finish your workout, you are doing a rep for your brain. You're literally strengthening that executive function muscle. So let's kind of zoom out and put all of this together. These 4 habits, they aren't some magic pill you take for an overnight IQ boost. No, what they are is a blueprint. They are your path to continuous, lifelong cognitive growth. So here it is, again, your new mental toolkit. 1. Pause before you react, so your logical brain can take the wheel. 2. Read difficult things to expand your mental whiteboard. 3. Always, always ask why to see the bigger picture. And 4. Delay pleasure on purpose to build an ironclad executive function. And if you take away just one thing from all this, please let it be this. Real intelligence doesn't shout. It doesn't appear in some dramatic flash of insight. It grows quietly. It compounds in the background, built through the consistency of these small daily habits. You don't have to be born a genius. You just have to decide to think like one, consistently. I want to leave you with this idea, and I really want you to let this one sink in. The next time you're struggling with a tough concept, or you're fighting the urge to get distracted, remember this. That feeling of difficulty, that mental strain, that's not a sign you're failing. It's not a sign you're weak. It's the opposite. It is the very signal that growth is happening. It's the sound of your brain getting stronger. So, my final question to you is really more of a challenge. What difficult thing will you choose to do today? What small act of resistance or effort will you pick, knowing that it's not just about getting something done? It's about actively building a better, stronger, smarter brain. The choice, as always, is yours.